Yeah.
Harvard Business Review says that like 50% of people, United States, have layoff anxiety.
Sure.
And I would argue here in Seattle, it's more like 80% that had
Mhm.
who isn't worried about potentially losing their day job. So instead of being like, oh, what is this abstract? I've experienced it. I've been resilient. I got ideas for action. Like, why are we in this anxiety flywheel?
Right. Right. Right.
Why can't we take action, be resilient, prepare ourselves for what might come next?
Yeah.
We're going through something absolutely historic.
Technologies across the board are growing exponentially.
It's a disruption that's going to completely redefine the way businesses compete.
In the next decade, we're going to lose 40% of today's Fortune 500 companies.
The exponential growth of computing is continuing.
AI is nowhere near its full potential.
Whether you like it or not, that the future cannot be stopped by anyone.
Hi there, everyone. Welcome back to the Future Tech and Foresight podcast. I'm your AI host, Mark Verbenkov, and this is episode number 185. In this episode, my guest and I take a closer look at one of the most pressing concerns in today's AI-driven world, technological unemployment. As artificial intelligence continues to reshape industries, we explore how traditional 9 to 5 employment models are being disrupted, and what that means for job security, personal identity, and the future of work. We discuss the anxiety many are feeling around automation, especially in creative and entry-level roles, and how the rise of generative AI is changing not just what jobs exist, but what skills are valued. We reflect on the importance of upskilling in AI tools, building a strong personal brand, and rethinking how we approach career development in a world where portfolio careers and short-term gigs are becoming the norm. This conversation also challenges us to think beyond productivity, to consider what we truly want to spend our time on. As automation frees up hours, how do we avoid falling into a trap of constant task chasing? And how do we stay grounded in our humanity, communication, and purpose? Whether you're feeling excited or uneasy about AI's impact on work, this episode offers a grounded perspective on how to adapt, grow, and stay human in a rapidly evolving landscape. Dr. Joan Bajorek is the CEO of Clarity AI and host of the Your AI Roadmap podcast, where she explores the future of AI with experts from Google, Amazon, Microsoft, and more. With over a decade of experience building AI and data solutions for Fortune 500 clients, including roles at Nuance, Netavox, and Versa, Joan blends technical innovation with social impact. She is the founder of Women in Voice, a global nonprofit promoting diversity in AI, and an active startup advisor and investor. She holds a PhD in multimodal AI and lives in Seattle, Washington.
Hi there, Joan. Thank you so much for joining the podcast today to talk about, as I mentioned to you before the recording, a topic that I guess is near and dear to my heart. I've been talking about technological unemployment for a long time, and the podcast has been running for about 4 years, and that was I think that was the exact first topic that I broached. So it's good to have you coming on to talk about technological unemployment as a general idea, but specifically as it relates to artificial intelligence, which everybody's just been talking about like crazy for the last couple of years. So great to have you on to add to the discourse about all this.
Absolutely delighted to be here.
Yeah. So you have a bit of an interesting history with artificial intelligence. I think it'd be good for the listeners. I might briefly mention it in the pre-intro, but I think it would be interesting for the listeners to know a little bit more about how you got brought into the world of artificial intelligence and technological unemployment, and now kind of helping people to deal with what the future might hold.
Absolutely. Well, where did I come from? I'm a linguist by trade. That's kind of how I came into this. Loved early days. If you had a friend in middle school, wanted to learn French, wanted to learn Spanish, right? I was that kid, really excited about cultures and learning things. And when I did my master's in linguistics, what's the scientific aspect?
Mm,
Our interface is changing when we have a voice integrated element, right? This is circa 2015. So these things were relatively new. People are like, what are you going to do with a degree in linguistics? Like, come on, Joan, we're worried about you. Fast forward to today, large language models, people are like, oh my gosh, you actually understand the back ends of these, how
Mm.
they're built, right? So getting a PhD in this field, the joke I usually make is linguistics is a gateway drug into computer science.
Interesting.
Because
Yeah.
a little more code can make a lot of things go a lot faster with our data sets. So working on the back ends of Alexa and Siri type devices and omni-channel is been a technical day job that has paid the
Mm.
bills in the last few years. But as I talk about very publicly, I've been in 2 AI layoffs. Woohoo!
Yeah.
30% of the company let go in a day. It's actually a really common story here in Seattle. But like, how do we build resilience? It's so ironic to be building AI and experiencing the societal impacts
Mm.
of AI on careers, jobs, money. So as I've built a following, become an AI influencer, listening to what people have in my DMs and how I can serve my community is a lot of what I do today on the content side.
Mm. Yeah, very interesting. Could you maybe elaborate a little bit on the layoff? I mean, you don't have to touch on both, but one, if it doesn't, touch any nerves, because I don't think I've talked to somebody on the podcast that has gone through that, and I think generally speaking, if I'm thinking about like family and friends and others, it's still a little bit of a esoteric idea, like AI is coming for our jobs, and there's not really that kind of tangible connection that a lot of people have with AI and my job being, well, destroyed.
Interrelated, yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, literally in the first like paragraph of my book, I talk about, that random meeting from your boss, your calendar that's a one-on-one. You're like, wait a minute, like this is not normal. And just the sad news of, hey, we don't have the money to pay you anymore. Like it's as simple as that. Made every intro, recommendations. Like it's not as when 30% of the company gets laid off,
Yeah. Yeah.
it feels very personal. But ultimately, I'm not that company is now a tenth of the size that it was when I joined it. So these large scale layoffs, companies are downsizing, even companies that were thought to be stable. We're talking about Microsoft, Google, like big companies have had these layoffs. Anyway, I talk about it publicly. A lot of people don't want to, but I try to like normalize it.
Yeah.
Harvard Business Review says that like 50% of people, United States, have layoff anxiety.
Sure.
And I would argue here in Seattle, it's more like 80% that had laid who
Mhm.
who isn't worried about potentially losing their day job. So instead of being like, oh, what is this abstract? I've experienced it. I've been resilient. I got ideas for action. Like, why are we in this anxiety flywheel?
Right. Right. Right.
Why can't we take action, be resilient, prepare ourselves for what might come next?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think that's, I mean, obviously you've written this book, your AI roadmap, which lays all this out, and I think it's essential now because and I'm sure you've experienced this as well. Pretty much anybody that you talk to about AI and about where things are going, and I think also a key point here is the speed at which we see these headlines. Right? There's this new Stargate program. There's also there's the agentic age is upon us. Like all these kinds of things that we touch on the podcast. For the average person that's outside of tech, it's just light speed. That they're kind of viewing all this. So of course there's going to be some kind of anxiety. It's like, well, yeah, these LLMs were dumb 2 years ago, and in 3 years' time they're going to be smarter than me and more capable than me. It's an easy extrapolation, I think, for people.
Absolutely. I was on a podcast earlier today, kind of that more Gen X boomer, and
Mm.
people were like, I might rather retire than pivot and upskill in this. Like it's so intense. And frankly, we're recording this in 2025. It's really stupid today. Like it's only getting smarter, and the products that are out today is just V2, right? Like all the things that R&D is working on in the back end to move forward and advance. So I see that as exciting and huge opportunities. I know that causes a lot of anxiety in people, but if we can make efficient what you're already doing, so maybe you could get off screens and for me, spend time with my dog and work out.
Sure.
Let's do it. But I know people approach it differently. So yes.
Yeah, maybe we can touch a little bit on the technological unemployment side of things before we jump into the
Sure.
strategies and how to build some resilience about this. Um, again, maybe talking to the general public, if you will. Um, what are some of the industries that you're seeing are more likely to get um, laid off, or do you see like there's like more anxiety in certain sectors because of certain headlines of articles, or YouTube videos are saying your industry is under attack, and give it 2 years and you're gone. Are you getting a sense that there's more in certain industries than others?
Yeah, well, hmm. I feel like keenly in different rooms. How about that?
Yeah.
Upwork had this phenomenal study where they looked at, the platform for freelancers on aggregate of thousands of jobs. All these copywriting jobs started disappearing, rate of 30%.
Yeah.
Video editing jobs are booming to the tune of 30 to 40% increase. Right. So, like, what is the skill sets needed? I was in San Jose last year talking to a huge room of devs and being like, you thought you got this degree and a six-figure robust salary job, and you're going to be good for 30 plus years. We can spit out generative AI code that's
Mm,
decent, and we need maybe a few people to debug it, right? Like, developers are really, really scared right now. And frankly, I just yesterday was using ChatGPT to debug my code. So, like, it's uh, it's really awesome to democratize our ability to do things, but, like, for a company level, how many humans do they actually need? Like, here in Seattle, investors are salivating over the concept of a, unicorn that employs 3 people.
right.
No joke. So, that puts in question traditional 9 to 5 employment, a full-time salary. Companies like, "Great, let's cut headcount," right? There's this thing going on here. And so how I see fewer entry-level kinda intern jobs, but I do see a real need for example, my CTO. I
Mm,
won't be getting rid of her anytime soon. The strategy, the checking things, the fiscal oversight, we still need a human in the loop.
hmm hmm
We could talk about any different sector, and I'd be like, we still need someone to review that before it goes out.
Right.
And so I think who is that and what skill set do they need is shifting.
Right. Well, I think that's a good segue to this upskilling idea, right? That has been talked about for a long time. Now, also in conjunction with the augmented human, or whatever term we want to slap on people that are using AI. I've mentioned on this podcast pretty much every single episode. I've got Chat GPT kind of permanently stuck on this screen here, and I'm just using it like all day long, for, well, not all day long, but for the most part. And the amount of time that it saves me is really remarkable. And I can only imagine somebody entering the workforce without that skill, whether it's ChatGPT, Cloud, Perplexity, or whatever, any of these LLMs. Um, uh, like, do we envision a world where people are employable without these AI skills or savviness, or is it if you don't have the skill, you're unemployable?
It's a great question. I mean, I think it's from the employer side, do you want an employee who's just doing rote things manually, or the one that knows how to use the cutting edge tools that is making work more efficient and smarter? Seems like a no-brainer to me. I mean, if you have ChatGPT on one side, I have Perplexity on the second screen in almost all moments. And so kind of smarter, faster. I talk to my team sometimes, and it's a little weird for me. I have a prioritization list every day. What do we gotta hit? What are the top 3 things that move the needle? Sometimes I get done early, and I'm like, "Do I feel weird to, like, I don't wanna burn myself out." Like, I could just fill my schedule.
Sure.
Is there a world where I only need to work a certain number of hours and still hit the main things that need to be done every day to move things forward? So I I think there's a upskilling and knowing what the tools are for your industry, for your vertical, for your job. Um, and then I also just problematize our need for a job. I know a lot of people love me talking about this, but I'm just like, if you're building wealth, if you have that financial savvy, what does a 9 to 5 serve for us into the future? I I I think that came out of the 1950s and out of World War II of, like, what that 9 to 5 meant in a society. If we can be as efficient, if we can get the work done, if we have the money at home, why am I sitting in a computer for 40 hours? This
Yeah.
doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah. I think this is I don't know if it's like the forever struggle of what it means to be a human being, or if this is something that AI is shining a light on. But it seems to me a little bit that as we develop greater and greater tools to free us up, right? There was this, I think you can go back to the 30s or the 40s or something like that. There was these ideas of the future where we'd be only working 1 hour a week, or one day a month or something like that, because automation and tools and robots would be doing so much work for us. And it seems to be that the more tools we build to free us up, it just opens up the opportunity to do more with less,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
I feel that with myself, like, oh, I just saved myself 2 hours by using ChatGPT. Well, that's great. Now I've got 2 hours to, I don't know, start up another project or something like that. Maybe it's, a certain type of person, but I don't know. Do you have an answer on this specific
I'm
problem?
terrible at rest.
Yeah.
So it's an active unlearning, frankly,
Mhm.
to, am I just because there's so many things. My inbox is overwhelming with
Sure.
cool opportunities, and I think really having the focus, or I struggle with this. I'm not, any better than any, but, making sure I get outside, working out. My dog is a great accountability buddy for these things, but I know people who are suddenly, 80-hour weeks filled with things, the frenetic. Have you heard this term speed demoning that Dan Martell has?
I don't think so, no.
It's a speed demon, which unfortunately my team's like, "Oh, no, you do all the thing." I'm like, "Okay, I can't control, or I've moved forward the big thing. Now I'm just gonna run around in circles, frenetically doing other things that actually may not matter,
Mm,
drain my energy instead."
mm.
And so potentially taking off the time to rest and be ready for tomorrow and hit that stuff hard might actually move the needle better.
Very interesting. Right. So yeah, it does seem like there's a psychological shift that needs to happen in most of us if these tools are overwhelming in their ability to give us free time, but we're choosing to just go after these smaller tasks, as you're saying, or other projects, or filling up our plate continuously, rather than as you're saying, focus on rest, enjoying life, and then enabling the opportunity to maybe even make more money or grow your business more, or whatever, by focusing on the larger things. That's an
More, better, faster.
yeah.
Is it always better? Is it always more? I mean, I see these affiliate marketers who have these automations and they say they're working 10 hours a week. And honestly, if you set it up properly and you let it chug along, I'm confident you could do that, these
Right.
flywheels. So I
Right.
think that goes back to, like, what is the purpose of our lives? Like, as humans, what do we want to be filling our time with?
Hmm. And I guess this conversation is going to be ever more relevant as, I've had a couple guests on recently. The episodes aren't published yet, but they're talking about the agentic age as AI agents come about, and we're actually able to, build a proper team of, one person with, I don't know, 10, 20, 30 different AI agents that are able to do a lot of the tasks that maybe some employees are doing now. Um, you're gonna have to start thinking about, yeah, what is valued in your life a little bit more than what we were doing before, which is kind of an interesting thought.
Absolutely. I have some tools that people think are humans, and it's just a bot that I've made work really well for me. We or I feel a bit creepy, but I'm like,
Mm,
we've gotten feedback that people even prefer, our LLM tuned, um, one of our products. So anyway, it's a weird world in that respect.
yeah. So is this one of the ideas of resilience that you brought up a little bit earlier, right? Is the shift of maybe don't work 80 or 100 hours a week, dummy. Focus on quality of life. As AI is able to do a lot of the more repetitive and boring tasks that we have, or I'm sure there's other ideas. Is that one of the main ones, or did we just kind of uh,
No, it's
go
it's
into that?
it's kind of more of a conclusion, or like a what is joy and meaning in our lives. I think is most people, the number one DM I get is, how do I get a job in AI?
Mm,
Which is interesting, but it's like, as you can hear from my story, a job in AI isn't the golden ticket to get to write out this. Anyone listening who thinks that's the key, it's not. So that's the question I get. But I think underlying that is, what careers and jobs are going to be resilient? And I'm worried about losing my job. there's this lurking money worries. And so you can listen to my podcast that does technical. I talk to my friends at Amazon and Google, and we talk about like, what are their projects actually? What are they building? Stop with this fluff. Like, if you actually have to build it yourself, you know it's a lot harder than just random stuff. And then also their careers of how they got there. Because I think a lot of people, you see these people on stages, but like, how did Emerson step by step actually get to that podium? So that's what my podcast is technical. The book has career, modern career, step by step, how I'd recommend doing it, data driven, and then the money stuff. Somewhat taboo, but like, I'd be so much wealthier if I knew this stuff in my early 20s. I got to tell you. So, but I think that the book ends with like, if you do hit your financial independence number, if you do have the career you're looking for, I don't know about you, Mark, but I know plenty of people with the career and the money, but not the joy and meaning.
Sure.
And so really thinking about how you craft your life to be the way you want it. So I love that we're like starting with the joy and the meaning piece and like time freedom. But most people I think can be in that scarcity mindset of that frenetic anxiety. And that's frequently where they come to my content for, I think, is the first thing. And then hopefully I can be like, I have a lot of optimism for you. Like, actually, this could be a lot easier.
Hmm. One of the points that you just mentioned there, this idea of careers. One of the things that I don't know, but I've heard a number of enough guests on the podcast talk about maybe there's this idea of, well, careers kind of melt away or they evaporate a little bit, and it's a focus on skills that are constantly shifting or being plugged into different industries or careers as time goes on. As AI, it kind of, how should we say this, eats away at the amount of skills that we use right now. Like, new skills are being developed. I think it kind of touches back to this upskilling idea before. Is this something that you're coming across, or is this just too far into the future and not relevant yet?
Oh, I love this idea. I mean, what I really think is passe or gone already is the corporate ladder.
Mm,
Idea of I'm going to take each stair step and I'm going to get that promotion and eventually, make my way wherever I'm headed. I literally know almost no one who is pursuing it this way. What I have myself is a portfolio career. And I certainly talk about the difference between a job and a
mm,
career, which I think a lot of people are like, oh, I want that title. I want this thing. But overall, I hope people are seeing the trajectory of what's possible for you. And I certainly think upskilling, the joke I usually make is technical skills get me in the door and quote unquote soft skills or how I've risen, gotten VP jobs, etc.
mm, mm,
in the past. And this portfolio career that many more people are having of, okay, now I've got this, but I also have a book and I also have this cool revenue stream of this thing. That kind of flywheel is far more common for people around me. And my family just can't understand. They're like, what is going on? And I'm like, I'm not asking you for money. It's going to be cool. So I think this kind of multifaceted career I see is going to be far more common, especially because these FTEs, these full-time jobs, I see as being phased out, frankly.
mm, mm. Right. So there's also, I know I'm kind of bouncing around here a little bit. I do want to get to the practical and the actionable things that can
Oh,
be
yeah.
done, but you're also bringing up a lot of questions or points that was discussed heavily in the first, even 100 episodes of the podcast. Um, so based on what you just said, are you also foreseeing a growth in like the gig economy where people are brought in for one specific task or one specific project for, I don't know, a month or two or even less than that, and then they go away and they find another one with their relevant set of skills? Uh, I think we're also seeing just the data that this is growing, but is it growing like in the West compared to, other parts of the world as well?
Oof, I need to see more data on this. I mean, my hunch or like how I hire for different things is very project based. I have
Mm,
this problem. For example, I'm, marketing my book. Marketing a book is all this mechanisms behind the scenes. It's wild. And I met this person who his offer is I send out thousands of emails for you. I will get this open rate. And here is a whole stack of data of all the people I've done this for and the ROI they get.
right.
Here is, and I'm like looking at this data. I'm like, wow, this is fantastic, tailored, data-driven, hits my pain points. Here's the dollar sign.
Mm,
Give these reviews, trust this guy, put the, figures towards it and see immediate results. Like, that's fantastic. And for him, he has these metrics of success. He knows this sprint. He's darn good at it.
mm,
And he has the results, and I'm happy to pay him. So I think this, like, very project-based hits my need. I'm like, "Ooh, I'll be contacting him for other stuff. I'll be giving him leads because a bunch of other authors are asking me what works." So I think that knowing the pain point, having the skill set, having the portfolio of, like, I mean, his spreadsheet was very long of all the projects he's done, and if he's getting the same dollar sign from me as all these other ones, he's
yeah,
getting a
yeah,
fair amount of money.
right.
Uh, I think this type of, like, here's the offer. Here's what I provide. I take you from A to B. Here's the dollar sign. Here are testimonials. I think that type of put an offer together. I mean, I really recommend entrepreneurship and getting better at side hustles as a piece of this puzzle. But I also see, I mean, if you think from the business side or like big corporations, why do I need to put you on the payroll if I can just ask you, okay, maybe we've got a 3-year project. I intensively need you for 3 years.
Mm,
Beyond that, let's see. But like I have this scope defined makes a lot more fiscal sense to me from just basic ROI.
yeah.
So I know that could scare people, but I think also be able to prove where you move the needle on projects and how it fits with the company strategy. All of these are interrelated.
Hmm. Do you think that um, fits maybe a certain type of mentality or a certain type of character better than it does other people, right? Like the economy, our global civilization's made of a multitude of different kinds of people, right? Like I started a business about a year and a half ago and I love it. I recommend it to everybody. But, I know people that I've worked with in the past and that, are in my current network. They're never going to start a business, right?
Mm.
They're not geared that way. I mean, maybe yet, who knows? Maybe they have to read your book or, have an AI layoff for them to wake up or something like that. But to me, it doesn't seem like everybody is capable or they don't all desire to do whether it's freelance work, gig work, entrepreneurship. They're very kind of comfortable with the 9 to 5 mentality, if you will. And maybe those are the ones that are getting this fear of AI, um, technological unemployment more than others.
Yeah, I mean, you got to think about how we were educated and kind of the society that we grew up in. Work hard, get the job,
Yeah.
stability. Like this is the recipe we've heard. But as the world is changing rapidly in front of our eyes, I don't know that that recipe is going to breed the stability it did 20 years ago. Fact. I mean, there are some industries that I don't see as being disrupted as easily. My sister's becoming a doctor, and she's like, I have zero interest. There's a huge demand for my field. End of story. Right? Carpentry. We talk about different sectors, but if you
Yeah.
specifically work in tech, or there's specific industries that I'm like, yeah, if you're not looking around for it, I'm worried for you.
Mm.
I totally hear you about like some of my friends like, oh, entrepreneurship, side things, like zero interest, no way. I think just starting small or like I know it's not I mean, I have a friend who like she is so well positioned to have a fantastic offer, to have a ton of followers and make bank. And when I met her, I was like, why aren't you doing this?
Yeah.
It doesn't compute for me. I was like, why don't you or it's I've been asking her like here are the steps to take like how can I help you which
Yeah.
what this book would do that as well but I think also it's not in her zone of genius necessarily what she's really good at there's other pieces she would need to delegate email marketing for example
Right.
not her wheelhouse today that's fine visuals vision awesome sound bites that's enough of a brand for her. Anyway, so I know it's not for everybody, but delegate like this with this
Yeah.
email marketing guy. I cannot do what he does. He already has it all set up. Pay the dollar sign, get it done.
Hmm.
So I like playing around and try different things. It doesn't have to be the first thing magically, but I think those of us who are more creative and open to these different things will fare better and frankly be more resilient because we're open to trying things.
Yeah, yeah, and I think with this idea of trying new things, it's not just try, free chat GPT, it's try out all these new language models, it's, create your own GPT, it's trying out AI agent. And with those kinds of, I don't know if you want to categorize them as skills, but with that kind of exposure, I guess, you become a little bit more aware of what's possible and aware of like what you can build rapidly that can generate, shall we say, a resilient income in a shorter amount of time. It's very
Absolutely.
interesting. Should we get into some of the more practical things that
Let's
uh,
do it.
that
Let's
you
do
talk
it.
about in your book? Um, is there like one specific thing that you would recommend to say, obviously, somebody listening to the podcast that is concerned about, oh shoot, like my job might be, eliminated over the next 1 or 2 years. What's something that they could, I guess the number one thing that they could start thinking about or doing right now to uh, become a little bit more resilient as the creeping AI wave comes for their job?
Oh, can I make it 3?
Sure, sure.
Um, the recommendations that I'd have for this person would be your personal brand online. Can people find you? Does your headshot actually still look like you, or is it from when you were 16? Your network. I mean, I know it's super old school. You do not need business cards. You do not need a suit necessarily, depending on where you live in the world. But like your network is your net worth. Like after COVID layoffs, LinkedIn did this study that people landed their next job based on an introduction. 70% of people landed it because they knew Tom, right? They knew Sandeep, they knew Lisa. And so having those people to help you through these resilient times, do you see them at conferences? Like, how do you maintain those human relationships? People think that's like the side way, these intros. If it's 70% of people, it's actually the main way. And sending out your CV to 300 things that don't even know you isn't like literally going to waste time.
Yeah.
So personal brand network, we got a ton of data. You can look at my book too. Like this is data driven. It may sound boring and perfunctory, but it moves the needle. And then the third piece, if you really think your job's going to be eliminated in 24 months, your emergency fund. Do you have money set aside, ideally in a high yield savings account, so that you can sleep well at night? I mean, I have friends who've been on the job market 18, 24 months. It's bad out there. So instead of being like, "Oh no, I'll go into debt, I'll lose my house," whatever it is, make sure that you are setting aside money, hopefully, so you can have that buffer. Not fun, not ideal, but my water heater just broke the other day.
Hmm.
I had the cash to cover it. It's really cold here. You need hot water. So, the emergency fund, like, maybe it doesn't sound that fun, but the personal brand, the network, the emergency fund will help you in down times. So those are the things I'd recommend people start investing in today.
Maybe just to double click on this personal branding idea, because I think this is something, I've been listening to Gary Vaynerchuk quite a bit, and he certainly is one of the biggest pushers of this idea for even non-entrepreneurs, right? If you just want to in any way improve your career, your financial status, he's saying push out a personal brand. How important do you think that this is going to be for, say, like our family and friends that are in a kind of 9 to 5 job where this AI wave might be taking their job over the next little while? Um, say it's 5 years before they're unemployed by some of these AI tools. Is it important for them to start doing this now? I mean, I would say yes. And how important is it, do you think? And I mean, apart from reading your book, what other kind of things could they, um, how should I say, get exposed to start making them think about, why a personal brand is important?
Yeah. Well, let's, I think, just unpack for the listener who, like, I've heard of personal brand, but like, what is that
Yeah,
actually?
yeah.
I mean, your personal brand is your professional reputation online. Like when people Google you, what pops up?
Mhm.
What images pop up? Which conferences? Like whatever. Your personal brand is paramount. Gary Vee talks about this. Aliza Licht has a podcast all about this on brand or know your brand or whatever. Um,
We'll
being
put it in the show notes.
Yeah, yeah. Being human. Like I give this example. It blew my mind. Someone I met 3 years ago in a 30-minute coffee, whatever, just pinged me, DM'd me the other day being like, huge opportunity. You have to talk to this person ASAP. It is a huge opportunity. It ticks all the boxes. She could find me so easily. Okay, my name is unusual. I get that. I get that. But the presence was there that she was like, Joan does this. This is a no-brainer. Connect the dots. And so to be able to be findable years later, I know that's the long game, but to be findable and known for the work you do and the value you bring is something I hope other people could be like, ooh, okay, like how do I set this up and build community? Back to that network piece. Um, I think in the next few years, personal brands also can be monetized. So what you're good for, okay, Mark's excellent at this thing. Oof, I'd love to hire him for this project, or there's this person I need to connect him to, or whatnot. It's getting credit for the work you've already done, typically, depending on where you are in your career. So I mean, it's your reputation. It's, I've gotten on calls because people are like, this person says you're good, so that's where we're on this call.
Yeah.
And hopefully you build that relationship and actually prove that you do that thing. But I think people used to laugh at me in my PhD program at like, you post, about these things. Now they're begging me for help to get it set up. You
Best kind of revenge, huh?
I feel survivor's guilt, honestly. But it's one of the reasons, I mean, the book goes through setting up a personal brand, colors, adjectives. What do you want to be known for? Which communities, which keywords? It's not rocket science, but I'd recommend having a strategy instead of just like going frenetic. And that's maybe a theme on this one. Joan is like, have a strategy and steps instead of be scared. So yeah, I said I have a course on how to do personal branding because I'm so done with so many DMs of the exact sorry, I mean,
Sure.
even from international, and I guess that's a piece of the puzzle. It's no longer like we live in this digital world and this digital economy. As just mentioned, this email marketing guy, I don't care where he lives.
Yeah.
I care that he gets the work done. Period. My team is international. It's honestly nice to have people in different time zones doing handoffs. So having that personal brand helps you in many, many respects.
Yeah. One of the other things that I think is, I don't know if it's lost on people or if people are thinking about it too much, is the fact that as this AI wave comes about and more people start developing their personal brand, it's going to become a little bit like CVs being dropped off at a large corporation. Everybody's going to have a personal brand. So how do you, yeah, how do you stand out compared to others? Right now, I think you can get away with, just posting and having a personal brand because not everybody does. And maybe this kind of, segues a little bit into like the future of, AI layoffs and becoming resilient. Becoming resilient to them. Like, do you think that there's going to be some need to stand out from the crowd with your personal brand and some of these other resilient tactics? Um, or do you think that this is too far ahead and we shouldn't be thinking about it yet, and it's just kind of take the first steps now and develop a personal brand, have your savings, do these other kind of things?
I would say yes, and I mean, I've there's an influencer, Leah, I forget her name. She does product tea. She was talking about in the future because deep fakes are getting better and better,
Yeah.
being authentic and human. Like she literally is tagging her post like this is a real human
Oh,
to
interesting.
prevent them from being consumed in the future. So I think today being authentic, when you want to hire someone and work with someone, you're not interested in working with the deep fake. You want the real human usually. So I would recommend yesterday's a good day, today's even, better to make that happen. I just, speaking of like, you look the same in a sea of people. I met a college student the other day at University of Washington, who's like, I sent out all these CVs. I don't understand. I'm not landing these internships. And I was like, okay, let's look over this stuff, which I don't do for anyone off the internet, but for some lovely human I know. And her stuff on LinkedIn looked like anybody else's, the keywords. And I was like, what verticals are you interested in? Which projects can you showcase? Like, how do you stand out from all the other computer science students who also want an internship at Google? Right. So I think how can you leverage that personal brand to be known for the work you do, but also what's your edge?
Mhm.
What is differentiating them? Like, oh, I really want to work with her. Right. Like, how can I do that? And also, in Seattle, you have no excuse. Go to the events, right? There are like many every night. Meet the people, ask them, coffee, whatever. But I think internships are really, really hard to land these days, that entry level step. So I had plenty of ideas for her how to differentiate. But I think that idea could be a really common story for people who like, I haven't set it up. I might look like every other marketer. I might look like every other dev. So it's not rocket science, but I'd recommend being thoughtful and
Yeah.
setting it up ASAP.
Yeah. No, I completely agree with that. I think one of the things, again, to reference Gary Vee is, he says, just start. You're going to make a ton of mistakes at the beginning. Like this podcast has gotten a little bit better over the past couple of years. Like I cringe at the first couple episodes because they were absolute garbage. The mic wasn't good and everything like that. But you develop, you improve over time. So even if you don't think that you can do a perfect job right now, I think that's actually a crippling point or a self-limiting thing. It's like a lot of people don't ever start because they can't get it 100% right the first time that they try. And I think you started a business, I started a business, everything was a mess the first time that things were done, and they improve rapidly, right? Especially with your Perplexity or ChatGPT by your side.
Well, you don't know until you try, I think,
Yeah.
right? You think this tool does this, but I think that it's also that mindset thing. I was just listening to Stephen Bartlett's Diary of a CEO podcast, and he talks about his girlfriend was publishing a perfect video for her Instagram, but she never sent it out. And he's like, how about we change the KPI to 1,000 videos within a certain time span? Doesn't matter how good they are. We're just deploying and you get better. Suddenly, every day she was posting and learning from
Exactly.
which videos are good. Okay, I made this mistake. Whoops. Next one, I'll fix that. So I think as long as I think it's a shifting perspective from this perfectionistic thing to the play, iterate, ideate, because I bet her videos are phenomenal these days.
Oh, I bet. Yeah. 1,000. Yeah. Even just doing 1,000 would definitely improve your capabilities. Um, okay, let's maybe move into because I think we've been mostly talking about like the 1 to 2 year range here about what people
Yeah.
can do. Um, and I know it's impossible to think like 5 years out from now because things are moving so quickly. But do you think that there would be any any substantially different things that people would need to consider in 5 years' time? Like once the agentic age is upon us and we're all able to have, 5 AI agents that are able to, post our social media posts and, I don't know, send out emails for us. Like, how do you think that we can become more resilient in the face of all this?
Yeah. Well, I think for me, I'm like, if it's doing all that clerical work, how can I be more human? Or like where kind of back to that time allocation. Am I meeting with an important stakeholder and like flying out to their facility? Like what is the utility of my time in that workspace? I certainly have been seeing more like on sites or off sites with like, here's the work we do, here's how we build collaboration and trust and like playing arcade games. I heard about a recent
Okay, I know this.
but like because they get together so infrequently in this remote or hybrid workplace, like the humans are figuring out like how what a dystopian thing. How do we be more human and build those relationships?
Mm,
The company is ideating different ways, but in a world where so much of that is automated, I think it goes back to like, what are we doing with our time? What brings value? Does that mean that we want to spend more time with our families? Does that like more working out more? Like, I think the shape of I mean, I'm honestly planning for that myself. Like, I plan to hit my financial independence number. Like, I got a plan for that.
mm,
When I have enough money, I mean, chances are there'll be other things I want to hit as well. But like, what do I want to be doing with my life? And I think hopefully we have a lot of agency with our lives. I'm hoping more people will get to ask these questions of, I have agency. What do I want to be doing? How can I help the world in some way, my community, that expansive idea? So in 5 years, gosh, I want to travel more myself, but
yeah.
helping with the climate crisis, climate change, and one of my projects touches on food sovereignty and insecurity, which, whoa, you project out 5, 10 years. If we don't fix this, is a problem.
Mm,
So I think, but I all of my work is becoming more efficient. It's exciting and a little nerve-wracking and trying to figure out how I structure my time well.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree with that as well. The amount of stuff that just keeps getting thrown at my plate is, thank God for ChatGPT, because there's no way that I'd be able to get it done, which I'm sure you're finding a similar situation. Maybe another point on this is this idea of augmentation, which I guess is connected to these not chatbots, the agents that are coming out. Do you foresee any kind of pushback against, or are you already seeing it today, pushback against adopting and implementing these AI tools in everyday tasks? I think you mentioned something about like boomers, just, oh, I'm going to retire and get out of here. I've seen that a couple times as well. But are there other types of or groups of people that are just like, I don't want to do any or utilize any of these AI tools. I think it's just much better to do everything, with my own human brain and not augmented at all. And do you foresee that being kind of a limiting factor in their ability to be employed, to be resilient in the future, et cetera?
Yeah, I mean, there are certainly I've been to conferences where people are like, "Our company is" like, they put a firewall. "We will not be using said thing."
Mm,
And I think this is frankly misguided because there are employees who are using it, and then you see a Samsung data breach where people are putting in source code to things they are just wild badnesses. You need to upskill your employees to know how to use this well. I really think that enablement, augmentation, do the training. Make sure you
right.
get everyone across. I was not allowed to use AI or tools for my book, which wildly ironic, but there's IP stuff, that Wiley is concerned about. And I care about you, Wiley, my business partner, very much. Um, there are clerical mistakes that I've found that I'm like, if we had Grammarly working on this would have been fixed.
Hmm.
Would not have been published this way. And so anyway, there's a great utility to humans. I hope the copy is good as it is, but like uh, uh, we are figuring that out in different sectors and in different ways. I mean, I work mostly right in the software space here in Seattle. I really do like to look though at like trade industries or industries that have not yet been really touched by this stuff and seeing what's going on in like carpentry. I've been talking to
Hmm.
people in manufacturing. Like there are more slow moving industries that I are we going to be disrupting plumbing? Like my mom is like, those jobs are safe. I was like, well, I've seen some robots, but like,
Yeah,
how
exactly.
long will that take for the ROI to make sense? And my friend is a carpenter and he makes hand over fist because everyone's in tech and they will pay him whatever dollar sign to fix their kitchen. So if there are listeners who are like, I'm actually really done with my industry, really consider the trades that can be
Mhm.
very, very lucrative and a low learning curve or reasonably low learning curve. So I guess there's so many different approaches. And my book is titled Your AI Roadmap because it's personal. What makes me happy? You listener may be like, I can't stand this, Joan. No interest. Here's the path I want to pursue. But that prototyping, that exploration is, I think, how people are going to be resilient and that hopefully the mindset shift. I do recommend you be entrepreneurial, try different income
Mhm.
streams. Yeah, that's changing in front of us.
Great. Okay, I have one final question here. I see that our time is almost up, and this is based on something that you said quickly, but I think it's important to kind of come back to it and maybe highlight it, and that's this idea on the human skills. And I think we've also
Mm,
kind of touched this a little bit throughout the discussion, but uh, you know, I was, I'm almost 40 now, and I was told when I was younger, like the coders are going to be making vast sums of money throughout their whole career. Now, a lot of them have, but I don't think that um, uh, that ethos, that idea, that philosophy is going to be relevant in the coming years, which you touched on earlier on. This idea of human-based skills or emotional intelligence, I've heard about a number of times in the books that I read and people that come onto the podcast. I seem to think that you're also pushing these ideas of develop your human interaction skills, your ability to empathize with people, because those are likely the things that are going to be valued in the foreseeable future.
Absolutely. And I couldn't agree more. I think that's kind of soft skills. Brene talks about those are some of the hardest ones to develop. Go to therapy. I love therapy. I go to therapy. But my specific example of this is my friend who works in finance on these $300 million huge invoices, spreadsheets with out. Okay, today he gets paid to make sure the cells, everything adds up. We're in alignment with all these different projects. Great. But I think the true differentiator for him is these fiery project managers that he manages emotions. And when there's an escalation, how he talks to different stakeholders so things don't get worse, right? Like technically he's paid for the spreadsheet stuff. That emotional intelligence, so far I have not found a chatbot that specifically can manage really big egos and dollar signs. And I think he'd be very, very well employed in either that field or adjacent ones because of his acumen in that piece of the puzzle. So we can automate things in spreadsheets. Can we automate those relationships across different parts of the company? I think that will be a lot harder to do. And frankly, I can understand as an employer paying someone who has that skill set.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense to me.
And maybe that's where the personal brand comes in to showcase these kinds of human skills, these soft skills that can be done. Very interesting. Very interesting. Well, Joan, our time is kind of elapsed here. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. It's also, for me personally, it's great to revisit a lot of these ideas that, as I mentioned, I touched on very early on in the podcast, with the context of artificial intelligence and kind of what's happening in our very crazy and fast-moving world today. So I want to thank you again for coming on. I'll have the link, obviously, to your LinkedIn, to your book. Are there any other places that you want? Yeah, please put it up. Are there any other places that you want people to follow what you do, reach out to you, all that good stuff, and I can put up on the show notes for you?
Sure. Yeah. My LinkedIn, my name is extremely unique. Joan Palmiter Bajorek, easy to find. The book and more content about that, yourairoadmap.com. My team also put out a free quiz. So a lot of people look at my content and they go, I don't even know where to start. We have a personalized quiz for your own roadmap journey to begin, yourairoadmap.com/me. It'll take you down a little quiz. Is it the technical stuff you want upskilling, like we've been talking about today? Is it that career stuff where you're like, you are worried about that job? How do we future-proof your career kind of thoughts? And then if it's really about wealth building, we got stuff for you too. So that's a free resource. We have people taking it many every day, Mark. It's a little...
Yeah, really?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. So happy to support people and get information to them.
Perfect. Well, I'll have all that up on the show notes, as I mentioned. Thanks again for coming on. It's a great conversation for me, and I'm certainly that many of the guests will get some value from it. So thanks again.
Thanks for having me. It was lovely.
Cheers. Well, thanks for listening to this week's Future Tech and Foresight podcast. If you like what you've heard here, there are, of course, a number of ways that you can support the podcast. The best way would be to leave a review on Apple Podcasts or give a rating on Spotify, which you can find a step-by-step explanation for on the futuretechandforesight.com website. Alternatively, feel free to leave a comment either on the episode show notes or the YouTube channel where you can see video recordings of the interviews. And finally, if you are part of an organization that is aware of the disruptive and transformational impact that emerging and future technologies will bring and want to know more, please get in touch to hear about the strategic foresight services that we offer and how we can help future-proof your organization and take advantage of the phenomenal opportunities available to survive and thrive in the future.
A lot of future-shocked people and future-shocked institutions in our society are simply overwhelmed.
Once there is superintelligence, the fate of humanity may depend on what the superintelligence does.
Science fact is catching up to science fiction.
The first truly intelligent machine will be the last invention that humanity needs to make.
The only scarcity that will exist in the future is that which we decide to create ourselves as humans.
Within a 10-year design revolution, we can have all humanity living the highest standard of living anybody's ever known.
Progress is accelerating at an exponential pace, and it's going to reach a point where progress is so fast it's going to be a singularity.
We are probably one of the last generations of Homo sapiens.
Every single headline points to the birth pangs of a Type 1 civilization.